Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Stranger Things Season 4 on Netflix. And overall, I enjoyed this season mainly for the characters rather than the plot. Because this one really follows the cliche of doing like all these kind of 80s things and either not really following up on them or pretty much writing themselves into a giant fucking corner and having to frickin' do weird shit to get them out of certain things. That mainly is involving like Eleven and the whole stuff in California slash Nevada, and mainly Hopper in Russia. Oh my god. It's like, okay, we had the Cold War shit going on, and like fighting Russians, okay, and they just revolved his whole plot around that, and he doesn't even get back into the U.S. until like the last episode. It's like, whatever. That was like a whole fucking stupid ass thing. We got good character development out of him and other characters that were around him in it. It was just like, wow, this definitely feels like a detour thing, and you didn't really think about like, that whole kind of like taking him into Russia kind of like fucked us over because we had to devote a huge fucking time sink to try and do this. It's like, Same thing kind of happens to Eleven because she is mainly. They do her stuff with the teenage bullying kind of shit, which has consequences that they just fucking right away. Like, literally, like, pretty much have somebody, like, do away with the consequences because that would get in the way of like the other stuff going on in Hawkins. It's really kind of strange that we had certain characters removed from Hawkins, and it would have just been better if they had just been in Hawkins and they just focused on the Hawkins weird shit that was going on. Um, and then she's pretty much utilized for a whole lot of fucking info dumps going on and exposition, and it's just like, all right. They try and dress it up as best as possible, but it's still like we need all this information to pretty much set up what we're going to be getting in season 5. That is, I think, the biggest kind of weakness here. That this is a set up season, even though things kind of happen. It's just mainly prelude to the big shit that's going to be going down there. Now, the great kind of positive is we still get good character moments and lines and kind of development for what kind of goes on here. I love seeing, like, Dustin, Steve, not Nancy so much because they don't really give her much to do other than kind of act out more of her, like, Nancy namesake kind of stuff because they go Freddy Krueger more in this kind of thing for the big bad than, like, the previous seasons, like The Thing. Robin was good. Lucas had some interesting stuff, but like if they had cut out or done away with some of the other things, his character arc would have been a lot better because I really wanted to see more of what was kind of going on with that. Mike is pretty much trying to deal with his feelings for Eleven, and that pretty much becomes the extent of that. Will's trying to deal with his feelings for Mike, and I do have to hand it to him that they handled that pretty well. They don't come outright completely and say it, but it's not that ham-fisted of being like, all right, everybody would figure out what's kind of going on. So we'll, and again, that could have been even better if you cut out a lot of the chaff of the other things going on. Jonathan got kind of screwed over and being like, yeah, I'm pretty much going to sacrifice my happiness and shit for my family. Argyle was an interesting addition, and Eddie Munson was a really good character addition as well within the Hellfire Club. So, how do we want to do this? Okay. Even though things kind of like escalate and kind of build off each other with the Hawkins thing in Central, let's kind of detail the other kind of character arc things going on first. So, it's 1986. Elle, Will, Joyce, and Jonathan have moved to California, and they're dealing with that, and Mike is going out for spring break to pretty much visit them. They kind of get out there, and they kind of get there. Elle's pretty much been lying to Mike, saying she's got a lot of friends and she's doing all right, but she's not. I mean, granted, she was pretty much in a lab for most of her young life, so like school's gonna be fucking horrendous and even more of a hell for her than would be. And the thing is, she pretty much has this project to do a historical figure, and she does Hopper. And this one fucking popular ass bitch is just being a bitch to her and a bully to her. And the thing is, this could have been really kind of cool to showcase the different kind of things that Elle has kind of gone through, i.e., whenever a problem presents itself, she has to deal with it as like a threat on her life or whatnot, and usually remove that threat. Because as these seasons have been building up, she has been dealing with threats of like the Demogorgon, the Demodogs, the fucking Mind Flayer thing. So she has, if things have gotten to her, she doesn't know threat escalation. That would have been a better kind of way to deal with it, because it would have been cool to kind of examine her as that kind of lens of she is in a permanent state of fight or flight, and she doesn't know how to deal with that in a kind of civilian setting, almost as if a soldier is sent off to war and trying to recalibrate after, okay, I've got to stop seeing, I've got to try and balance this kind of thing. Everything isn't a threat, and I can't deal with it as if it's a complete threat that I have to end quickly, otherwise me or my fellow comrades will be killed. Because that's kind of how she's been built up to this point. We even see other kind of bullying through the giant info dump that we get later on. But she's making fun of her, and she gets pissed off at Elle because she's kind of bullying her in class, and then she bullies her outside, kind of destroying her diorama thing, and people are laughing at her and shit like that. And the teacher rightfully is able to deduce, because she has the subtlety of a fucking hammer to the taint, is the one that was fucking doing this shit. She's like, I'm gonna get you for this kind of shit, and proceeds to do so later. But I'm like, you're stupid as fucking shit. Everybody knows that you did it. I, from an alternate reality where your whole thing is a TV show for me, would be able to pop in with zero context and be like, that bitch did it. How do you know? What else is going on? You're smirking like you fucking rolled around in shit. You're making fun of her. What else is going on, asshole? It's like, wow. Odd. So, she's not really having a good time, but Will is trying to be there as much as possible. Jonathan's freaking out and just toking weed. Which I think is more on the 80s thing of like, hey, he's doing weed, more than like, okay, what's his character kind of shit. I understand he's stressed, but there's almost too much other things going on that, like, do I mind this? No. It's the execution of, like, you don't really do much with it. And, of course, Argyle is his kind of stoner friend as they work at this pizza place doing shit. But then Mike kind of pops in. Nancy doesn't go to visit him because she's more integral to the plot of the stuff going on in Hawkins, even though most of the stuff she does could have been just figured out plot-wise in different kind of ways, and also by other different kind of characters. They mainly use her as certain info kind of gathering things, and also to continue this stupid love triangle shit between her, Steve, and Jonathan. Except this time, Jonathan is far away, and Steve is like, I can't get a girlfriend, and all my dates are pretty much sucking. And it's like, I get it. While Robin is pretty much trying to figure out how to find a girlfriend, and likes this girl in band, and they kind of set up that they could potentially have something kind of going on later on, but that's pretty much it. Yep. So Mike gets out there, they're trying to do all that stuff. She takes him to a roller rink kind of thing, saying that she goes with her friends and all that kind of stuff. That's when the bully takes a milkshake, throws it at her. We essentially have a Carrie-like scene. The fucking people working at the roller rink are getting in on it and, like, making fun of her and playing music and shit. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm like, that is definitely liability and shit, man. Like, they're actually even recording it, and I'm like, you are stupid fuckers. But then again, you're probably a rich-ass person who's connected with all this shit, so you could probably get away with it. Elle's trying to process it, and then decides to go, fuck this shit. Takes a fucking skate, and I'm not talking like something that's like it's got heft and shit to it. And I'm like, oh shit, she gonna kill her. Like, honestly, the way she kind of hit her with that, I'm like, she dead. But she smacks her and then like fucking beams her. Not smacks her. She fucking beams her in the face with this shit. And then of course they press charges on her. However, that gets wiped away because the Owens dude needs her because shit's going crazy in Hawkins. That's what I'm talking about, like the consequences. Like, they don't have her deal with this at all. It's just mainly like, hey, teens and bullying in the 80s. But this is going to get in, like, the way of the plot, so they kind of arrest her, but then, like, Owens' guards, like, go and get her. And the thing is, shits are going real in Hawkins at this point with, like, murders and shit. And then you got Owens, who is on one side of the government, who's like, let's train Elle to kind of deal with this shit, bringing in fucking Papa Brenner asshole. And then there's this Sullivan dude who, for whatever fucking reason, thinks that Elle's been killing the people, and that the way to stop it is to kill her. Never mind that they offer no proof or anything that she is doing these murders, or in any kind of trance that she's able to do them. He's just like, yeah. It's weird, kind of like, I understand that you're trying to do, like, government people against government people, and that kind of, like, 80s espionage kind of stuff, but it's like, you're throwing too much shit in this pot, and it's not really working out. The thing is, Owens is like, okay, shit's getting real in Hawkins, we gotta get her power back. So they work with Brenner to pretty much, like, put her in sensory deprivation and, like, unlock her memories to get that kind of going. Do I want to bear this out to its conclusion? Yes, and then we're going to get to the Russia stuff. So, she gets pretty much taken away. Owens pretty much sets up guards on Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle. But then Sullivan's people come in and pretty much just, like, kill Owens' guys. But them and Argyle book it in a pizza van and then hook up with Dustin's ex-girlfriend? Computer lady. And they have this whole kind of fucking stupid spiel where she had changed Dustin's grade and that she confessed to her father. He then took the computer. They had to go in and do this whole elaborate thing to get into the computer. She's able to find the coordinates of where they're at. It's in Nevada. They go there and they're trying to figure out where it's at. They get there towards the end after everything is cooking, as Elle's able to figure out what's going on with also Papa Brenner. She's pretty much trying to figure out if she's a monster or not. She's been having also issues with Mike because before this whole thing he's pretty much hit her for, like, why are you lying about everything like that? And then she's bringing up why he never said that he would love her, like he loves her in the letters that he would send her and everything. It's like, okay, so they're trying to deal with this whole kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, that's interesting if that was the kind of main focus and we get them actually conversing about this. They kind of do it at the end, but there's so many plates and shit spinning. Also, by the way, this season is 9 episodes, and their length is fucking nutty. Some of them are, like, definitely over an hour, getting to, like, 90 minutes. The last episode is 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's like, fuck that shit. If you're trying to adhere to, we give you 9 episodes, just fucking then tell them to have more episodes. Granted, yeah, I could pee, and, like, pause, pee, get snacks and whatnot, but I'm like, sweet Jesus, the last one's 2 hours and 30 minutes. Way too much shit happened in that one. And there were certain points that we left people, and I'm like, huh. It's been about, like, 20-some minutes since we saw those motherfuckers. They should be dead by now. Just wanted to get to that before, because if you think that there's a lot of stuff going on, there is, and some of it is just like, wow, you could have got this, you could have got this, you could have sliced this episode here, you could have fused these kind of parts here. It was disappointing. It's like, okay, I still like the things that are going on in certain respects, but what the fuck? Alright, so we get this whole thing. She's pretty much trying to figure out if she's a monster or not. Seeing everything that kind of went on in the lab, how this one dude was pretty much trying to help her, and that she's getting bullied and all this stuff, but Papa's able to kind of, like, stop it because Elle was thought of as pretty much the weakest, but then she's able to push back this strong-ass motherfucker and, like, show him up to the rest, and they pretty much, like, hurt her and everything, and Papa's like, hey, fuck you people. Granted, he's still an asshole. Fuck him. you can say he loves Elle and everything, all he wants and everything. He doesn't have her best interest. She kind of essentially had an Empire Strikes Back moment where her friends needed her help in Hawkins and she wanted to leave, and Papa pretty much drugged her ass and was like, we'll train you here and everything. However, Sullivan comes in, everything gets crazy, Papa dies, and then she's able to fully utilize her powers. However, she's going through all this stuff and we're like, hey, she killed all these people here. Now we gotta misdirect that shit. So instead, we find out that she was going to escape with this dude, and that this dude is one, Henry Creel. And that she was able to kind of remove this kind of chip thing from him, and then he utilizes his powers and pretty much kills everyone there. But he then wants her to join him, utilizing his powers because he wants to be pretty much a super predator. Like a predator preying on people and everything, and wants to remake the world in his image. They then start fighting. He almost tries to kill her in the same way that we've been seeing in Hawkins. Because, spoiler alert, one is the one that's been behind everything. This retcon kind of dilutes the things, in my opinion, in the Upside Down. Granted, there could be other kind of things that we get in the next season, but I'm just like, oh, okay, so he's the mind player, he's controlled all the rest of the Demogorgons, the Dogs, all that kind of shit, and now we got Demobats and all that, so we'll have to see. I know I'm getting a little ahead of the Hawkins stuff, but it's easier to kind of get through this now. And she's able to then utilize her powers to her fullest, and then we get one of the stupidest kind of things possible, because it's never fully explained what happens with Elle doing this. Because she's got him pinned to a wall. We're like, okay, she somehow opens up a crack in space-time and shits him in the Upside Down. No. She essentially dusts the motherfucker. He's like burning up inside out, and somehow is still thrown through the Upside Down. He is physically destroyed in this dimension from what it looks like, but then he's like going through towards the Upside Down, getting blasted by lightning and everything, and turning into fucking bleh. And then he gets in the Upside Down. But the thing is, in that, before he went there and tainted it like the dickhead that he is, it kind of looked alright. We had the Demogorgon and everything, and then he saw this like hive mind thing, turned it into the Mind Flayer, controlled everything else, and turned it into a corrupted, weird-ass version of Hawkins and everything. Because it connects everything back to like the 1950s with like this serial killer thing with this Victor Creel, as we saw pretty much Robin, Nancy go to talk to him, kind of Hannibal Lecter style, and the thing is, creepy things were going on because Victor Creel is the father of Henry Creel, and Henry Creel's like, fuck this shit, kills his mom, kills his sister, and the thing is, before he could kill his dad, the dad was able to kind of like remember a certain song and get snapped out of it, and then he gets inducted into the whole Papa program, and the thing is, Papa couldn't control him, so he like put a chip in him to stop him from going nutty ass. It's just like, alright, yeah, that pretty much gets it. I don't have a problem with the main basic flow of it. It's just the execution and what's going on of like, okay, you're very much too married to the whole 80s thing to where it's bogging down the plot and making filler-esque things go on with your explanations that you have to shit out this stuff so that way we can get to everything going on in season 5. So we got that. So he's the big bad. So it's going to be a clash up between these two heavyweight titans because they're the only ones that can fight each other. Mike and the rest find her. Papa gets killed. She doesn't forgive him, and I'm like, yeah, don't forget that fuckhead, as he then dies. And they then go off to get connected more on what's going on in Hawkins. So I'm going to put a pause there. I'll probably be able to like figure it out when we get there, because we're going to hit Russia real quick, and then we're going to get the Hawkins of the general layout of what was going on there. The Russia thing, Hopper's in a prison, and he's pretty much works with this guard who's working with this peanut butter smuggler motherfucker who, by the way, if this dude betrayed you this many times and you didn't fucking leave his ass or immediately remove him from the equation, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. Because they even give him a little redemption thing. It's like, alright, I'll fly you guys out, whatever. Fuck that shit. This dude like, sends this, like, hey, 40 grand. And Joyce got this, like, doll from Russia. It's like, what the fuck? Opens it up, gets this thing. It's like, hey, send 40 grand and come to Alaska and you'll get flown to Russia. I'm like, sure. So her and Murray pretty much work that out. Murray gets there, helps her figure out shit. They get up to Alaska. The peanut butter dude's like, hey, yeah, do. But the thing is, I'm just going to take you and turn you into the Soviet Union. Okay. They're flying. Murray's able to kind of like get control of the plane, but it crashes. And then they're trying to figure out what to do. And they essentially take him captive. And Murray impersonates him. And like they're going to take their there. Hopper is trying to like pretty much get out. He got into the church at one point, but the dude was betrayed by the peanut butter guy. Yuri, but I'm going to call him the peanut butter guy because I don't give a fuck. And then Hopper and him are pretty much stuck together. He's kind of explaining that he thought he was cursed because of all the bad shit that he did in the Vietnam War. And that he kind of deserves to die like this and everything. And the dude's like, oh, alright, can you just help us? And then them and some other prisoners are given a last meal kind of style thing before they're pretty much being... I don't know if they're just supposed... If it's just to like, hey, we got the fucking Demogorgon, let's fucking let them fight it. And then Hopper's able to kind of fight it, but of course, Joyce and them fucking are able to get there, and they get Hopper and the dude in the position where the Demogorgon was. The Demogorgon's going around fucking killing shit after that point because they're like, hey, let's get out of here. So they get out, but then they learn of stuff going on in Hawkins, and then they decide to go break back into the prison to try and kill all of the things there because they did see a lab. They had demodogs and shit like that. It's like, okay, this still isn't lining up with what was going on over in Hawkins because it seems like Vecna was trying to open up portals in Hawkins to kind of like destroy the world. The Russian upside down portal thing that they had, which evidently isn't that much of a thing anymore there. I don't know why. That doesn't really fit into his plan. And since he is the Mind Flayer, he should be connected to all that shit. Because they also got a portion of the Mind Flayer, and I'm like, that's stupid. But then we see them break in. He pretty much is trying to get them all there to divert attention so that way the kids can do whatever they do. Because they did get in contact with the ones and everything's going nutty there. So he fights one with a broadsword and fucking kills it, kind of Conan style. It's like, alright, and Joyce helps him, and then Peanut Butter Man and the guard dude get him out, and they get back pretty much after everything in Hawkins goes done. Let's see. Yeah. The Russian bit was completely and utterly just useless. I mean, we have this whole thing of the breakout, and they break out, and it's like, why didn't you just, like, destroy the whole entire prison, create a riot thing, get everybody out, and destroy the fucking thing, so that way you didn't have to go back in? It was fucking stupid. Like, why did we leave to just return to fight these things and destroy them? You could have done that already. Everything was already in disarray, because the Demogorgon's like, I'm Mr. Big Dick, gonna drag my dick across the wall, because I'm Big Dick Man. Big Dick Man. Because it's going around fucking shit up, and AKs ain't stopping that motherfucker, but a broadsword going to do it. It was just like, okay, I understand needing characters to do something, but if you're not going to do something constructive or worth the time, stop the filler and just do other things. So, yes, I would cut that entirely. So, let's get everything squared away with Hawkins, and then get 11 back into the fold. So in Hawkins, we start seeing that we are introduced to other kind of characters and everything going on. We had seen that there was conflict between Mike and Dustin and Lucas. Lucas not being together with Max because she's got shit going on with feeling responsible for her brother's death and still trying to wrestle with her feelings, because in this season we also learned that she was kind of okay with that and kind of would wish she would be gone or dead. And then when that kind of happened, was she a bad person for that kind of thing? And that's kind of interesting. Lucas, however, is more tied in with the basketball team and trying to be popular. And this I would have been more interested in, but of course he goes through the whole thing and be like, fuck that shit, these people are nuts. Because it starts getting kind of nutty. We see that Dustin and Mike were together with this dude, Eddie Munson. Because this is before Mike goes out to California. We see that there's a gigantic kind of choice going on. they had the last D&D game as they're fighting this dude Vecna. That's of course where we get the whole kind of thing going on. Whereas Lucas has this basketball game. Lucas is at the basketball game and actually wins it for his team. But the guys are instead at the D&D game. And I'm like, okay, you could say that they're bad friends for that. However, they're tied in with that, and that's important to them. And this is tied in with Lucas, and he chose that to be important to him. They instead get his sister to sub in for him, and they have this epic kind of thing. And Eddie Munson was a very nice addition to the cast. I really like how he is doing all this kind of stuff. He's really into metal and all that, but they definitely paint him as a target of the satanic panic, which is fucking stupid. Because everybody starts blaming him for all this shit going down. I do like how they did it, and all the kind of care and attention that they were going in for that kind of stuff to show the full fucking insanity of paranoia and all that kind of shit. Because if you stopped for even a nanosecond when everything was going down, it's like, have you seen him do any of this stuff? Like, you're ready to pretty much jail him at, like, least, or kill him at worst. Why the fuck wouldn't he run away from you motherfuckers? Well, we see him. He's a really kind of cool dude. He's kind of abrasive and kind of a dickhole with a lot of stuff, talking about how this year he'll finally graduate. And that they will then be the ones to carry on the Hellfire Club and do the D&D stuff. And it was really cool to see him as the Dungeon Master and doing all the different kind of stuff as each respective team kind of won. And we see that Lucas won the game, but he doesn't feel that same kind of sense of satisfaction that the others do as they're walking out. And you see everybody kind of celebrating that successful end to a D&D campaign. Because Dustin and Mike are like, fuck it. I don't care if I'm popular. I don't care if I'm a freak. Fuck that shit. We good, man. And I'm like, that's the thing, because they're fine with themselves. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. They might have other things they need to work through, but we also get to that point as well with Lucas, because things go kind of nutty, and the kind of popular dude Jason goes fucking off the rails completely and goes nutty hambo. His ultimate fate still sucks, even though I'm like, dude, you fuck nutty, man. What the fuck you doing? And we see this, we also see that Max is having weird visions as well, and this girl, Chrissy, is having weird visions, like, what the fuck? She actually attempts to buy drugs from Eddie one time and seeing them kind of work together, and because of his goofiness and his kind of affability, he's able to kind of, like, calm her down and actually get her into a better space, because we see that Vecna is going after people with these traumas and everything, and utilizing that to pretty much use them as sacrifices and eat them and consume them to gain his power and create gates so that way he can take over Hawkins and take over the entire world. Spoilers. So first he starts it with Chrissy at Eddie's trailer, and of course he runs and everybody's like, he fucking did it. And it's like, can you explain how, motherfucker? Because she gets pretty much levitated, certain bones crack at certain angles, and then her eyes fucking get sucked into her fucking skull, and she was like in the fucking roof as then they see her down. And we see that Nancy starts investigating this with Fred. Fred becomes the next victim because he's got trauma as well. And this follows a very kind of Freddy Krueger kind of sacrificial kind of thing going on, but yet nobody really kind of looks into it. Eddie's uncle knows that he isn't that kind of dude to do that kind of thing, leading into all the Victor Creel and getting everything understood there. Of course, Jason tries to gear up a posse and going after anybody associated with Eddie. Lucas is like, I ain't fucking about this, and helps out the Hellfire Club. He also kind of racks up the town to be like, let's go after these Satanists. It's like, you don't even know what they do, dumb fucker. I mean, honestly. You don't see him doing any rituals. You don't see him doing anything close to what's going on. They just fucking play D&D. And they like heavy metal music. Get fucked. But he doesn't care because he wants to hurt somebody for it. Which makes sense as his character, because he has no understanding of what to do or how to fight this. He's like, they have the power of the devil. How the fuck do I fight it? I'm just gonna fucking fight a motherfucker. It's like, no, I understand going that route, but that is stupid as shit and fucking wrong. You're gonna hurt other people that have nothing to do with this. And if you kept an open mind, you could have helped them fucking fight Oogie motherfucker in the Upside Down. So the thing is, He then starts going through, and we start learning that he needs 4 sacrifices to do this thing. They're able to. We first see him get like Chrissy and Fred, and then he goes after Max, but Max is able to get out because they learn about like music and everything to kind of snap him out of it. And she gets snapped out, and she's keeping on her headphones and everything. But the thing is, they start learning that he could be going for after other people. Also, one of the people in the basketball team, and that's the thing, the basketball team people find Eddie at this one place, and they're like on this fucking lake. But then Jason and the one person that Vecna would be going for cracked him, and that's the third one, and we start seeing stuff of like other things in the Upside Down because he's starting to open portals. Jason is still convinced that Eddie did it, even though if you looked at Eddie, he's freaking the fuck out and does not understand what's going on. Like, if you're doing these sorts of things, you would be like maybe in a trance, or you'd see them concentrating or doing some kind of thing to do it, or even smiling that it's happening as they're looking in your eyes, being like, "You can't do nothing, bitch." Not be like, "Ah, that motherfucker be dying," you know, like reasons. But no, Jason is stuck on this and has to do this because that's how he rolls. The thing is, they then find Eddie at this one place because they start figuring out that magnetic kind of stuff's going weird. They go to the lake, very much kind of like Crystal Lake, Jason Voorhees kind of shit, and Steve goes down. It's like, that's a thing in the Upside Down, and he kind of gets fucked up by some Demobats. And it's like, holy shit, like, he should have died, because we don't know what kind of shit that they've got, and he's kind of like fucked up, but they bring him out, and they're like, hey, we gotta kind of deal with this. So they get up and try and figure out and start a plan of how to kill Vecna. Granted, there's some good character interactions and everything throughout this, but these are the overall gist. The strength of those is like, granted, I watched through all the episodes and it's kind of blending together, so you do see various kind of characters. Eddie and Dustin's works very well because it shows another kind of person that Dustin looks up to and kind of wants to emulate going later on, adding a very nice role model alongside Steve. Steve doing his whole kind of Nancy thing, his sister popping in, Lucas's sister popping in and out to deliver like the one-liners and stuff like that, and the interesting sibling dynamics. They do get kind of waylaid by the police at one point as they're asking questions and everything about Eddie, but they are able to figure out kind of what's going on because Steve and the rest of them are in the Upside Down, and they're figuring out what to do, and they're able to bring them back out, not through the water gate, but through the gate at Eddie's trailer. Let's see. And Steve's pretty much alright for most of that, even though I'm like, you need to go to the fucking hospital. But the thing is, they pretty much do a recon. They figure out where Vecna is, pretty much in a recreation of his old house. But it's surrounded by Demobats, and they come up with this elaborate scheme. They're like, okay, he needs 4 to complete his kind of thing, so they're going to use Max's bait. They're going to send in an advanced team to kill Vecna, and then there's going to be 2 that are going to be pretty much battle bar decoy shit. And 11's pretty much going to be getting back into it at this point as shit starts going down. So they do all this stuff, but Jason kind of fucks shit up because Lucas was on point to try and get Max out of a certain headspace before Vecna was able to kill her. And they do their stuff at like a regular Dimensions house, Vecna's house, and his sister was kind of the lookout, but she gets waylaid by them. We see the groups go in. We see Eddie do this awesome riff of Metallica's Master of Puppets, Battle Bard style. I'm like, all right, him and Dustin are pretty much the decoys to get all the bats on them. We get Steve, Nancy, and Robin going in, talking about like certain kind of stuff, you know, the usual kind of stuff, like if I don't make it, and that kind of shit. But they get kind of like trapped by Vecna's kind of tentacle things, and we're trapped there for a good while to a point that I thought that they'd most likely be dead. However, they hold off on that for a bit. We see that Max is pretty much attempting to utilize her headspace more to an advantage than Vecna's, and that actually makes sense. Vecna has more more training in being able to control his kind of mental presence. However, she has the home field advantage and is trying to like keep him occupied. this is kind of when Eleven kind of pops up, because she knows everybody's doing this kind of stuff because she's kind of projected herself there, the telephone style kind of thing. So she decides to piggyback on Max to get in there to kind of help her fight Vecna. And that was actually a pretty cool scene. It's like, yeah, fuck this shit. But the thing is, she's not able to do everything to what she needs to, because everything kind of goes nuts. We get that Eddie and Dustin are pretty much getting trapped by the bats. He sends Dustin back through the one portal, and then decides to pretty much, he says that he doesn't want to be like a coward or running, but the thing is, most of the times when he was running in this were completely valid reasons. Like, these people were probably mob lynch you if they got you. They wouldn't give you a fair trial because they don't know what happened or don't understand what has happened, and instead just decide, hey, fuck you, we'll kill you and see that works. It's like, no, don't fucking do that. And then the whole point of his team was to occupy the Demobats, so that way the strike team could go and kill Vecna. And that's the whole thing. It's like, you didn't have to stand in the street and pretty much die. I mean, granted, it was a valid death. It's just almost kind of pointless as Dustin came back and got hurt and was sad, and it really affects him. And I'm like, damn, I get that. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to finally graduate this year. And then he dies because the Demobats pretty much like tore his ass up. And I'm like, no. There is a difference between running away because you're scared and tactically retreating to fight those bats in a better position and to keep their attention on you. The whole point of a decoy is to do fucked up, strange ass shit to make sure that, like, the enemy force is focused on you. If that means that you, like, harry them a little bit and then get to a better position where you can be like, hey, bitch, eat my ass with a blade of grass, and then keep going on. Merry Christmas, motherfucker. That's what you do. You know what I mean? Like, I get that deep down he thought of himself as a coward, and I get that. But it's almost like, alright, so now we're going to get characters that we get an attachment to, but we got to plot armor certain ones. Now, granted, here's the thing. I'm more of along the lines that you need to have earned character deaths. You don't go Game of Thrones willy-nilly, the motherfuckers, otherwise you're going to lose protagonists, and then nobody's going to be connected to any character, anchor character, and you're just like, I don't care what fucking happens. You know what I mean? You don't use death willy-nilly. Now, granted, I don't think it was as willy-nilly, but I don't like the execution of what they were trying to, like, do. So, the thing is, they're able to kind of, like, fuck with Vecna enough that the strike team gets down. Elle is not able to take him down completely, but she is able to unlock certain things and to stop him from completely killing Max, even though he pretty much gets to a point where she dies. But Elle's able to kind of like bring him back. The thing is, she kind of like powers him down, kind of blasts him back to his body before the strike team gets there. They Molotov him, they shoot him, and I'm like, you better get down. And like, Nancy got a good amount of shotgun blasts into his ass, and then he's down, and we essentially get a Michael Myers kind of thing where they don't get down there fast enough and he's back in the wind. And the thing is, Max died. So it was interesting to see if this was undone, what would kind of happen. Because we see Hawkins pretty much like decimated as all of these portals open up, and one of the portals is in the Creel house, and Jason is lying on the floor and gets ripped in half by the thing, and I'm like, god damn, I didn't like that asshole, but fuck that shit. So it's pretty much screwed over, and like this giant portal's opened up, but the thing is, we get back, Elle has used her powers to kind of bring Max back, but we're pretty much told that she's brain dead in certain interviews with we've seen, so she's alive, but not really. And Lucas is trying to do things, Elle's trying to like get into her head and see what's kind of going on. Of course, they get back to Hopper's house and are cleaning it up, and then Hopper gets back, they have their nice kind of reunion and all that. But the thing is, they then start seeing ash falling from the sky, and they start seeing that the portal's back open up, and they have to take down Vecna in the next season. So I hate that we are left off with that kind of teaser. I don't mind a little tease, but when you're going cliffhanger like that, it's really fucking stupid. So Elle's pretty much got to train up even more to effectively take on Vecna. Everybody's got to deal with this because the Upside Down is invading the real world now. and they've got to figure out a way to stop Vecna, and that's where we're getting set up. So everybody's back in one place, so thank God for that, and hopefully they're able to more effectively streamline and make sure that the plot and the characters are able to be in sync. Because this one definitely had the problem of the plot being like weirded to such a place that they had to fucking spend so much time to get out of certain places that they'd writ themselves, that it just really was a detriment to this season. The characters really shouldered a lot of that burden and did the heavy lifting, even though there's weird shit that went on with it. That. So we'll see what kind of ramifications and everything that kind of has, and what kind of training and who's going to be doing what. So we also see that Will still has that kind of connection to Vecna, so it'll be interesting to see him have a more kind of prominent role, hopefully, in being kind of like the censor or whatnot, while El is pretty much going to be the hammer to try and take down Vecna. And what other kind of roles the other characters will have, since it's pretty much like a D&D party set to the flavor of like 80s shit going on and interdimensional shit going on. And Nancy did have one kind of thing Vecna was showing her, like the taking over of the world, and that there would be this other giant beast with a gaping maw. So we'll see if there's anything above Vecna or not, but it looks like after this retcon, he has been the one that has been built up to the big bad, and he's the one that's going to be needed to be taken down to set the upside down right and to set the real world right. So we'll kind of see what goes on. I do like what we still have with the characters, and that would be my main motivation for watching and continuing on. There are certain things that I would like with the plot, and hopefully, since this seems to be set down as the final kind of showdown endgame kind of scenario, we get that streamlining effect, so that way we don't have as much ramping up and kind of useless shit of like, hey, this was in the 80s, let's do this thing. It's like, no, if you can fit that reference naturally and execute it well, sure, fine, cool, whatever. If it comes to the detriment of the plot or the characters, don't do that. That is a pivotal question you need to ask yourself whenever you're doing something like this. So those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.